Tom Greatrex.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I was listening with interest to the speech from the member for Aberconwy when he referred to at the beginning as though this was almost a repeat of reminding him of the committee stage of the proceedings of this bill, and I do feel a little bit like an intruder as I wasn't on that committee. But I'm not sure whether he meant he was enjoying it or he was enduring it, but I did want to rise just to make a few remarks in relation to new clause 6, which is in the name, I think, of one of the Minister's honourable friends, who I'm not sure is here this evening at present. I'm not sure whether this new clause comes into the category of superfluous detail that the Minister referred to in his earlier remarks, and one of his honourable friends referred to as blessed detail from a sedentary position, or whether it's something which was discussed or considered in committee. I just wanted to make a few remarks in relation to this new clause following a discussion that I'd had with the Rutherglen and Cambuslang Housing Association in my constituency just last week, who are concerned potentially about the payment of the housing element of universal credit and the changes that makes to the current arrangements in relation to direct payments. And now this is covered in new clause 6, which I think, from my reading of it, and I say not as someone who's an expert in these matters, seems to draw a good balance between the concerns I know there are to try to make sure that universal credit gives people responsibility for the money they receive, but also to protect the interests, particularly of tenants of social landlords, and also the effectiveness of social landlords, such as the Housing Association in my constituency I refer to, and I'm sure many others around the country, because my reading of this amendment is that it enables the housing element of universal credit to be made direct to the landlord if the person requests it, the person in receipt of universal credit requests it, or where the tenant is in considerable arrears. I'm sure that the concerns that have been expressed to me have been expressed by others as well, particularly with social landlords who are concerned about income streams potentially being significantly reduced, and that households facing financial constraints at a time of rising prices in other areas, be that food, be that fuel, and other calls on their budgets which may be reduced at the current time, may be reduced in the future, choose to spend the money received from universal credit on items other than rent, when that is that which primarily the housing component of the universal credit is designed for. I will indeed.
The honourable gentleman to give way, and I think he's making a really good point. But does he take the same assurance that I do from what the Minister said, that at the moment the vulnerable types of households that my honourable friend is so well describing can make those payments? Those payments can be made directly to the landlords at the moment. And as the government has said, they don't want to disadvantage anyone in the transition into the universal credit, that mechanism will be able to continue.
Well, I think that's why I'm on my feet now, is to try to seek that assurance from the government that will be able to continue, particularly for social landlords, where, as I hope just briefly go on to describe some of the potential difficulties that will have for the social landlord as well as for the tenant, because I think I've heard from the government on a number of different issues over the course of the past year, the determination to try to ensure that organisations which are in receipt of public money are as efficient and effective as possible. And I think that's important for social landlords and housing associations as well. And there's a potential risk here that what could happen is that social landlords and housing associations and small housing associations will end up spending a disproportionate amount of their time and resources attempting to get to arrears from tenants if we move to a new arrangement where direct payment isn't possible, and therefore we have social landlords rather than spending their time and effort in being as effective and efficient as possible, and in putting their priority and their concentration on improving their stock and seeking to improve the stock in which people live and dealing with some of the other issues they deal with are spending a lot of their time caught up in chasing arrears, more than is currently the case with the current system. And also that could potentially have, and has been described to me, an effect and constrain their ability to repay some of the private finance they might have borrowed to finance new building, because if they're then seen as higher risks by as housing associations being seen and viewed as higher risks, then they will potentially have a situation where there will be stricter conditions still on their borrowing, and therefore has an effect on their business going forward. There are also issues for tenants potentially, whether they then resort to doorstep lenders or other loan sharks. And I've had example, I'm sure I'm not the only member here today who's had examples in my constituency of people being driven into that area. And I know other members on this side and others, well, in fact on both sides of the House have looked to address some of those issues in other measures and other debates. But I think it's important that we don't, in seeking to ensure that people are responsible for the benefit they receive, that we don't necessarily put ourselves in a position which is worse in the sense that that direct payment is removed. So I'm not sure, because I said at the start of my remarks, Madam Deputy Speaker, that I'm new to this area of debate, and I haven't been on the committee and dealt with it in as much detail as many others have done. But being able to protect a system of direct payments, particularly for social landlords, I think is important, and I hope that that's something which the Minister will be able to reflect on, even if he does think that this is one of those superfluous new clauses. Thank you.